Very hot. Burnt my mouth. Eyes watering. Worth it. Hey everyone, it's Dave, and today we're making the world's best pot roast. Well, at least according to Google. As always on this channel, we look up the world's best recipes and we cook the #1 recommendation Google gives us and we put it to the test. So let's go ahead and look up the world's best pot roast. It looks like the #1 recipe comes from Spend with Penny. That's a website, I've never heard of it before, some blog website. It's usually blog websites that get the best search result. The pictures look amazing, so I am, fairly excited about this. I like a good pot roast, so I think we're gonna do pretty well. And let's go ahead and start with preheating the oven to 300 degrees. All right, so now that the oven is preheated, we're gonna take a cutting board, although it doesn't need to be a cutting board, it could be anything. It could be a cookie tray, something like that. We're gonna take our meat. Now, you have an option here. You can go with either a chuck roast or a rump roast. I went with a chuck roast because I think that's the better meat, but you can choose your favorite. This chuck roast is too small. You want a bigger chuck roast than this. It calls for 3 to 4 pounds. This is 2 pounds. So I'm gonna be a little, well, it's gonna feed a smaller family, I guess, which is fine. My kids probably won't like it anyways because they don't like anything I cook, so it's fine. So here's a chuck roast. And it says we need to start off by seasoning it with salt and pepper, generously. I think I'd rather use some bigger salt if I have some. So I'm just gonna throw on some big coarse sea salt on this thing. Try not to get it all over the house. Oh, that was a little heavy-handed. And then some pepper, and we should do both sides. Definitely want to get both sides. Actually, you should get the edges too. Really just load on the salt, pepper, etc., etc. So there's our pepper. Get a little more. This is gonna cook for a long time. It's gonna be a long recipe, so start this early. If you're making this for dinner, start it at like lunchtime, I would recommend. For me, it is 12 o'clock, so that's perfect. Let me get some of this pepper on the sides and salt. And actually I didn't salt this side yet, so I need to do that still. Let me wash my hands. Salt this side up. So basically you're just putting salt and pepper, and you could do less salt, less pepper, and you could use smaller salt granules. You could use fine salt. I'm just using this because I have a history of smoking meats in my smoker, and I always like to use coarse salt and coarse pepper and get it all over it. And that's kind of what I'm doing. Okay. So there's our starting point. Maybe aggressive on the spices, but I think it's gonna be good, so we're going with it. So what you wanna do next is get a Dutch oven. If you don't have one, maybe it's time to invest. But this is my Dutch oven, and what you wanna do, and I know Dutch oven's like a weird thing to call it, but that's just basically this big pot that's got a nice lid. I've got a lid on mine like this, and you want it to be oven safe. This is oven safe, I think up to 425 degrees, so it should work fine. And the first thing we do is we put a little olive oil on this thing. Kind of make sure it's all coated on the bottom, and then we're gonna heat up the olive oil and we're gonna sear this roast. So let me get over to the grill, to the oven, and we'll continue. Actually, you know what? Let's not do that quite yet. I'm gonna go set this over near the oven. I'm gonna turn that off, and we're gonna get our veggies prepared, because once we start searing this, we're gonna wanna add the veggies, and I haven't even cut them yet. So let's make sure we do it in order. All right, I got the mega board, the mega cutting board. So let's just go ahead and prep everything else. I'll go back up to the ingredients list and I'll see what format all these need to take. First of all, we need an onion chopped. A large one, it says. That's pretty large. We'll call that large. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it in half, like so. Cut off the ends. I don't know, this is my process. Hopefully it doesn't make my eyes water, but it might. It often does. Just skinning it. There's more than one way to skin an onion. Is that? I don't think that's how they say it. More than one way is to skin a goose. Now, that's like Dwight Schrute would say that. Anyways, so as I said, we are not professional cooks on this channel. We just cook for fun and try to, come out with something delicious. And a lot of times we do. A lot of times it works out. See, this is the thing in life. Really, all you gotta do to cook, or to be able to cook, is follow instructions. If you can follow instructions, then you can cook. That's the way I always look at it. And for that matter, you can also build. I know that's random and off topic, but I remember I wanted to make a kitchen table for my house, like a farmhouse style table. And so I started Googling how to do it. And I sure enough found out that basically when you're building, like woodworking sort of things, there's almost always a recipe online. They don't call it a recipe. They call it like a cut list or a materials list. But it's really similar to cooking in that you find that cut list or materials list, you go to the store, like you would go to the grocery store, you buy all the ingredients being 2x4s, pieces of plywood, nails, and then you prep the ingredients, like cutting your onions, meaning sand the wood, cut the wood to the correct size, dimensions, all that stuff, and then you assemble. So I know this isn't why you're here, but it is an interesting thing that cooking is basically woodworking. And I know there's much more advanced woodworking out there where it's not going to come down to ingredients, but raw skill. But if you want to build something basic like a shelf or a cabinet or a table without any intricate details, it is literally the same as cooking. Super useful information for you here today. And I think the reason people think they can't cook or can't build or whatever it is because they've never tried. Like they're too intimidated by the idea of it, but I recommend trying. Am I supposed to chop this onion? Yes, chopped. I like how I check after I chop the whole thing. All right, so we got our chopped onion, nice and chopped. Doesn't need to be perfect. It's going in a roast, basically like a soup type mixture. Not really soup, but you get my point, for hours. So it doesn't need to be perfect. Up next we need two stalks of celery, cut into 1.5-inch pieces. Interesting. It also calls for carrots, 4 of them, but I only had baby carrots, so I don't know. What equals 4 carrots in baby carrots? 1, 2, look at that. There's a random sliced one. 3, we're gonna say this is 4 carrots right here. That looks like 4 carrots. What is this bag? Nothing? Let me get rid of it. All right, so let's prep this. Let me go wash some of this stuff. All right, so first we'll chop up the celery into 1.5-inch pieces, which should be really easy. What, 1.5 is like there? And boom, celery done. That was nice and easy. The carrots, on the other hand, are 2-inch pieces. These are already 2-inch pieces. So that's done. I'll cut off some of these hard edges. But it says 2-inch pieces, and we basically already have that. So sweet. Save me some time. I don't know about that. I need 1/2 teaspoon of rosemary and 1/2 teaspoon of thyme. Now I checked 2 different stores and none of them had rosemary or thyme. I was successful in finding this actual house plant that is thyme, and I'm gonna assume that it's the same thing. So I'm just gonna pull some thyme off this. What do I need, 1/2 teaspoon? Yeah, so not much. Rinse it, and then we're gonna say we got thyme. There we go. Thyme, and I'll, do I have to mince that or something? It doesn't say, so I'll just break it up with my fingers a little. There you go, thyme. As far as rosemary, I think my wife said we do have the dry stuff, so I'll just use a little of that. All right, rosemary, like I said, I'm gonna use the dry stuff. It doesn't really say fresh or dry, it just says rosemary and thyme, so I'll just use 1/2 teaspoon of this as well. And then we need a bay leaf, which I have, and 4 cloves of garlic, so coarsely chopped. I wonder if they even need to be chopped. I'll do it, but I feel like you could just throw the whole cloves in there. 1, 2. All right, so I got 4 cloves of garlic. Chop that up. Okay, so chop up this garlic real quick. I don't think it needs to be minced. I just almost cut my finger off. I'm glad I don't have a very sharp knife. Did you see that? That was risky. We're gonna call that roughly chopped. So I think this is all our extras, mostly ready to go. So I'm gonna set these over by the cooktop, and I'm gonna also bring these ingredients. Also, you need red wine, which I don't even know if this is red wine. It says Cabernet, is that red wine? Yes, it's a red wine. We're also gonna wanna have over there some baby potatoes, which is what I have here, and probably the beef broth. All right, let's relocate our cameras and we'll be back in a second. Okay, so what we're gonna do now that we've got this Dutch oven heated up with some oil at the bottom is we're gonna put the chuck roast in there. And it should make a sizzle unless I wasn't patient enough and it's not ready, but it's all right, it'll warm up eventually. So let's put it in there. Yeah, there's a little sizzle. We got it on medium-high heat. We're gonna do 4 minutes on each side. And while that heats up, we have to combine some of our wet ingredients that we're gonna pour onto this in a little bit. So let me grab a bowl. Okay. We need 2 cups of beef broth. So I've got my big giant measuring thing here. This measures up to 4 cups. So it's super handy. And we're gonna measure out 2 cups in here, which will be most of it, but probably not all of it. I think there's 4 cups inside this container. 2 cups right about there. Does that look good? Yeah, 2 cups of beef broth. And then we wanna add to this 1 cup of the red wine. So we're gonna open up this red wine here. We're making the world's best chuck roast. I don't know how to open this, so. Oh, do you need a cork thingy to open this? Hopefully we have that. There's wood in there. So I need to figure out how to get this open. All right, so I found a corkscrew thingy. I've never used this before, so bear with me. screw it in, I guess. And then I'm gonna pull it out. Does it explode or something? Huh. That's hard. Ah, got it. Definitely got it all over myself too. Anyways, you get the idea. So you need 1 cup of that. So we're at 2 cups. We're gonna add it until it gets to 3 cups. 3 cups, and we are there. This is not the most scientific way to measure, guys. Probably should put it on the counter. 3 cups, perfect. Okay, so we got that. Now it's been 4 minutes, so I'm gonna flip over the chuck roast. Took me 4 minutes to get that bottle open. Let's add a little bit more olive oil if we can. Hold on, I can't reach it. It says you can add a little more if you so desire. Okay, put it down on the other side. You can see it started to brown up a little here on the edges. So that's a good thing. And we're gonna do the same thing another 4 minutes. Now into that broth wine mixture, we're gonna add our garlic that we cut up earlier. So we're gonna add all that garlic. We're also gonna add the rosemary and thyme, which remember the thyme I got from the plant. So there's that. Rosemary I'm getting from the bottle, and it's just a half a teaspoon. So like that, half a teaspoon of rosemary into there as well. That's, I think, everything we need in that wet mixture. So I'm gonna put the broth away. Smelling really quite delicious. Now, we can potentially do the same thing to the sides if you so desire. So here, first of all, let's look at this. Look at how good that is. That was a really nice sear. I kind of want to get that sear on the other side, so I flipped it back over. All right, so now that we've got a nice sear on this, like I said, you could totally take it and do the sides. It's all about time, how much time you have, how much time you want to spend. I probably won't do it as long on the side. Maybe I'll do 30 seconds here, then do the other side for 30, other side for 30, all that. Flip it over here. Let's get a little bit of sear on the sides here. All right, so I'm smoking out the house. The next step is to add the onions around the sides of the pot roast, or the chuck roast. So that's what we're gonna do, is we're just gonna place these onions along the sides here. I'm trying to get them around all the sides. It smells really amazing, by the way. Delectable. Okay, so onions there. And now that we've got the onions there, we're gonna add this broth mixture. I'm gonna pour it along the sides here. Uh-oh. And I'm only gonna spill a little bit. There we go. So it says to bring it to a simmer, but mine kind of instantly went to a simmer. Hold on, let me spin it around a little. Okay, so bring it to a simmer on medium-high heat. It's looking good so far. It's like already simmering. It's almost boiling. It smells really good. Looks really good. I'm pretty excited about this. Now I'm gonna move my shelves around in the oven, because the next step is to put this in the oven. You're supposed to let the broth get to a boil or a simmer, which is pretty much already there. Then put it in the oven, 300 degrees for 2 hours. Now, you'll notice we haven't used the potatoes yet, the carrots or the celery. Apparently those are after the first 2 hours. So I'll probably put those in the fridge. I'll bag them up, put them in the fridge, and we'll bring them back out in 2 hours to go into the mixture. Okay, so would you say this is simmering already? I think it kind of is. This honestly has been really easy. So that's kind of a nice thing about this recipe, is so far it's been really easy. We're gonna put it in 2 hours, add the other ingredients, and then I think we're just gonna simmer it 2 more hours and it's gonna be done. So this is gonna be an incredibly easy family dinner, I think. All right, so we're gonna put our lid on our Dutch oven, like so. We're gonna get something to hold this by, and we're gonna put it into the oven. Okay, here we go. Off there, into there. All right, so we just put it in there. We're gonna set our timer for 2 hours. Computer, set timer for 2 hours, and we're good to go. We'll be back in 2 hours to check on that. All right, I was just like cleaning up, and I saw the bay leaves, and I remembered I forgot to add the bay leaf. So right now, it's only been like 1 minute since I put that in the oven. I'm supposed to take 1 bay leaf. Can I get a full one out of here? I want like a big chunky bay leaf. Oh my gosh, I'm spilling everywhere. There you go, bay leaf. Put it into the pot with the oven, or in the oven into the pot with the roast. Those are words. I just set it right on top of the roast. Okay, I'm gonna clean up. We'll see you soon. Okay, here we are at the oven. It has been approximately 2 hours since we put our pot roast thingy, pot roast, into the oven. And so what we're gonna do now is we're going to open it back up because we have another step we have to do. All right, so there's the pot roast. We're gonna take our lid off, which is gonna be hot. Ooh, okay. I'll show you what it looks like here. 1 second. Okay, so there's the pot roast as it stands now. It's looking really good. We need to add the potatoes and the carrots and everything else yummy. And we're just gonna pour them in there. I had them all in a baggie. So I don't know, should we make sure that the potatoes are like in the liquid? Probably. Although I think it'll cook fine anyways. So this is all in there, hot. That's looking pretty good, if you ask me, if I do say so myself. This is gonna go back in there for another 2 hours. Now, I'll say this, it could potentially be less time. I have a much smaller pot roast than this recipe calls for. And it says like once it's fork tender, it's done. But I'm gonna do an hour and I'll check it at an hour and then I'll do the next hour after that. But hopefully the size of the pot roast doesn't cause any issues. All right guys, it has been 3 hours. I just checked on this pot roast and the meat is definitely done. I'm not sure on the potatoes. Let me check the potatoes. See, technically you were supposed to cook this for 4 hours, but I had to cook something else. And when I had to cook the other thing, I went ahead and turned the heat up to 350. You're supposed to cook it at 300 and I cooked it at 350 for like an hour and then 2 hours at 300. So I thought, you know what? Might be done a little early. I didn't have as much beef as it called for, but look at this. See how it just pulls apart with my fork? Just is annihilated immediately as I pull it apart with the fork, which is a good sign. That means it's done. It could probably go longer. Probably wouldn't have hurt it to do another 30 minutes or something, but oh, you know what? Take your bay leaf out. You don't want to really eat that. Put it on the ground there. But yeah, let's stir it up. This is my ultra pot roast. World's best. I'm excited about it. I'm kind of torn on pot roast. I like it if it's a good meat. Oh yeah, the potatoes fall apart too. Look at that. They're good. Potatoes are good. Pot roast is good. Let's try it out. Should I try it right out of the bowl? Should I try the meat first? Like how would I do this? Look at that. That looks amazing. Looks pretty good. Welcome to Flavortown, USA. Cheesiest thing I could say. Okay, so let's just get like a spoonful of this, put it in a bowl. That's what we want in our life. Get a little bit extra of the meaty goodness. There you go. There's our pot roast. How's that look? Pretty good? Pretty good, I would say so. All right, so here it is. Pot roast in a bowl. Maybe I'll take a picture of that too. Let me try one of the potatoes. Break off a little piece. Maybe potato with the potato just melts in your mouth. Wow. I'm pretty excited. This is like legitimately delicious. And I'll tell you, okay, so I wanted to say this, but I didn't say it yet. Oops. My dilemma with pot roast has always been the rump roast. So imagine my delight when I looked up world's best pot roast recipe and it said chuck roast or rump roast. I got to choose a chuck roast, which is one of my favorite cuts of beef. So I was really excited about that and I had high hopes and my high hopes have been met. I'm like pumped up right now. I'm gonna try the carrot. Very hot, burnt my mouth, eyes watering, worth it. This is delicious. This is by far the best pot roast I've ever had in my life. World's best, I would say maybe, guys. You gotta try this one. It is delectable and I'm not even a pot roast guy. Definitely try it out, highly recommend it. 4-hour cook time, not that bad, including prep. It could be 4 hours, it could be longer, it depends on how long you leave it in. But yeah, can't recommend it highly enough. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you come back next week. We'll try another of the world's best recipes.